Okay.
All right, I'm going to start our program now. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Welcome to tonight's program called Empowering Women with Holistic Care here at the Korea Society. This conversation is part of a larger series we host called Startup Scene Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow and is made possible through the exclusive support of Hanwha Life. Tonight, we are especially excited to be in partnership with OKTA New York, the Overseas Korean Traders Association, and shout out to OKTA's President Ryan for joining us. Now, to briefly introduce our speakers, tonight we have the pleasure of hearing from Yanghee Paik, who transitioned from a successful career as a Disney executive to leading a groundbreaking consumer goods startup called Rael. Yanghee co-founded Rael to revolutionize the stagnant American feminine care product market. Leveraging cutting-edge South Korean manufacturing technology, they introduced clean, high-performing, holistic feminine care products. And moderating tonight's conversation is Selena Lee, a former corporate lawyer who transitioned into personal and executive coaching. Selena is a best-selling author in South Korea and the host of the podcast Live Your Dream with Selena Lee, which has listeners in over 100 countries. So now let's welcome our speakers, Yanghee and Selena.
Thanks everyone for being here. Can you hear me okay? It's a little bit weird to do this in front of all of you, but thanks. It's such a hot day today, right? I'm so glad that you all made it. Thank you for being here, and I'm so happy to learn about Yanghee's journey. So we'll also have some time for questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask her. Okay, so I would like to first start with your first part of your journey. You describe yourself as an accidental entrepreneur. I know your dream when you were young was actually in entertainment, and you specifically wanted to work at Disney, right?
Yes.
And so I would love to know about your early part of your career journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, nice to meet you all. Thanks for making a trip out here. So I was actually not a person who thought of doing a startup company until I actually started that. So I moved around quite a bit growing up. So I was born in Korea, and my family moved to Paris when I was little. So we spent some time in Europe, and then my family moved back to Korea, and then actually, in middle school, I moved to the US, so I spent about 3 years in New Jersey. And then my family moved back to Korea, and I went to college there, and I did management consulting. And when I was in college, my dream was actually to get into the entertainment business. And it's about 20 years ago when I went to college in Korea. So back then, it was really difficult to find a career path for entertainment business. I was passionate about doing something that would impact people's life. So content, storytelling was something that I really wanted to get into. But as a job, there were not that many options in Korea for entertainment. So I thought about different options that I had as a college student and decided that my goal was to go to the US, to get my MBA. And if I'm lucky, then maybe I'll get a job in Hollywood at one of the entertainment companies. And then after learning the best practices, then I thought maybe I could go back to Korea and then revolutionize the Korean entertainment business. That was my old dream when I was in my 20s.
Wow. And then you started your career in consulting, and then eventually you did make it to Disney.
Yes.
How was that experience like?
So to be honest, it was a complete dream come true. So even, when I was young, I read about Walt Disney biography. I grew up watching a lot of Disney movies. So I always just kind of dreamed about at a company that makes a lot of positive impact on people's lives. And I even wrote about it on my MBA application, actually. So I said that I wanted to go to Harvard MBA and then get a job in Hollywood, potentially Disney, and then I could, really expand my career from there. So that happened. And working at Disney was wonderful. I had a lot of fun actually doing movie distribution work for about 8 years. And I dealt with Disney animation, Pixar animation, Disney live action movies, Marvel movies, and also Star Wars movies. So just dealing with that kind of content and products was so much fun. And I also, initially I focused on strategy work, but then I moved over to the sales job. And sales at Disney actually involved a lot of deal making, negotiation, partnership making with tech media companies like Apple, Google, Amazon. So learning about the tech media trends and then working with those big strong companies was also a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
Wow, so you are at this dream job and you've worked so hard to get there, and you're working on all these amazing projects. But then you left to start your own company, and transitioning from a Disney executive to founding a startup, especially in the consumer goods industry, is a significant change. So
Yes, yeah.
can you tell us what motivated that change, and then how it was like in your early part of the entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. So what happened was I was really passionate about the entertainment industry because I thought I could learn from the best practices in Hollywood and then go back to Korea, and then everybody would want me, and then I could do something very meaningful for the entertainment business. That was what I thought I could do. But the reality was, after spending almost 8 years at Disney, so I was on the movie distribution side of things, not in the making side of things. I realized that in order to really make a huge impact on entertainment, you need to be more on the creative side. You need to be a writer or a director or even a singer or, someone who can actually create content. And I felt like with my limited business experience, I was not really equipped to make the kind of impact that I thought I could make. So after spending, like 7.5 years at Disney, I started like soul searching. I felt like I lost my purpose because like throughout my whole career, I was just like running towards my career goal, which was like, revolutionizing the entertainment industry in Korea. And then somehow realizing that, oh, maybe the path that I walked on wouldn't really like prepare me for the, career goal that I had. So I was just kind of like, looking at some of other opportunities like, oh, should I go to tech media side or should I go back to Korea? But maybe not. I was not ready to really go back home yet. And then just kind of like opened my eyes to other opportunities. And one day I met my co-founders and my life completely changed.
Tell me about that meeting that changed your life.
Yeah, so I want to say life is really interesting. It's full of surprises. So one day I did an interview with a Korean newspaper to talk about basically my career in entertainment and how I moved from Korea to the US, for my career. And then my co-founder, Anes, she read about me through the newspaper, and then she reached out to me because she's a former writer, journalist, and my co-founder has been writing stories about women and then female leadership. She was very curious about women's stories. So I think after she read about me through the newspaper, she thought, oh, this lady is very interesting. I want to meet her. So we met up one day. She reached out to introduce her as a journalist. So I was like, why not? And I went out and had a really nice conversation with her. And then, during the conversation, she asked me whether I knew anything about the pads, tampons, how these products were made. And I was like, that's a very random question, And I had to tell her that, I've been using these products for a long time, every month, but never really thought of, how these products were made, like what kind of ingredients, these were using. So I just like assumed that these products were all made with natural ingredients, which was not true. And then we started actually talking about our experience as a Korean woman living in the US, because I think some of the Korean ladies may be able to relate to this. But, whenever we went back to Korea, we would buy a bunch of Korean pads because they're just so much more advanced and better technology, a lot more comfortable than the products that we found here. So one of the big surprises when we, Korean immigrants come to the US is kind of like lack of high quality feminine care products in the US. So I had a really interesting conversation with my co-founder on that night. But then, I was not ready to jump into it. But my co-founder inspired me, by saying that we can change the world, by launching organic cotton, cover pads, and then doing something with more natural ingredients in the feminine care industry. So she planted the seed in my head, but obviously I was not ready to just like leave my job at Disney because I was enjoying that so much. So it took me a while, I think about 3 months to really leave my stable job at Disney. But the more I thought about this opportunity, I was completely convinced that, feminine care is one of the industries that has been dominated by big brands over the last, I would say, 100 years, especially in the US. And there has not been much sort of like interest or disruption happening in the market, innovation happening in the market. So we as women sort of felt the responsibility to do something to change, the feminine care industry. And another thing that really motivated me was, I was working at Disney. I saw the power of brand. And then I've always wanted to do something where I could leverage my heritage from Korea to do something impactful in the US. And I thought that was entertainment when I first, came here. But the more I thought about it, like I could actually do the same with feminine care, bringing the Korean technology to the US market to introduce some novel products that American consumers have never experienced. So I completely changed my sort of career path or plan when I met my co-founders and left to Disney and then started Rael 7 years ago.
Wow, what an amazing journey. How was the early part of your entrepreneurial journey for you? I know it was quite a significant shift, right? Being an executive of Disney, you're part of a big company. I'm sure there were lots of benefits and perks, and now you are, just launching this new startup.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anyone thinking of starting a new, startup company, I would say it's not as glamorous as it looks, because also because I was not ready for this. I was a corporate executive. Suddenly the opportunity came up, and then I just shifted my mindset, to get into this. So I don't think I was fully ready. How much work it would be, and then how much risk taking it would be. But I think what I wanted to do was to be like a decision maker, rather than being like a little piece in a huge machine when you work at a big company. So I felt like, okay, so if I started Rael then and become the CEO, I'll be making my own decisions, we'll be building something really meaningful. And then maybe it could actually fail, but still I would learn a lot, as the CEO. So I was ready to do that. But at the beginning, we did not have that many employees. Everybody was, doing like 5 people job. And then just like a lot of hustling that we had to do at the beginning. And, because I worked at Disney where even though I was on the sales team, I didn't have to do like a hard selling. People would just want to buy Disney content. So it was not as difficult, in that sense. But when I started Rael, there were a lot of rejections and no's. We were like cold emailing a lot of investors and retailers, just like knocking doors everywhere. And then, initially we were like, nobody has heard of us. So a lot of rejections and then a lot of like broken hearts, in the beginning. But I think we like persevered and then came where we are now.
Mm-hmm. It's as anyone who has experience trying to start your own thing, I think it can be really discouraging to get a lot of rejections, and because you don't know if it's going to work out. Mm-hmm. So what made you keep going even though you're getting a lot of rejections? Because I think a lot of people at that point like, we're not sure if this is going to work out.
Yeah. I mean, I really had faith, in what we do, because the technology that we were bringing from the Korean market, to the US, I thought was really novel. And then because we started on Amazon, we were gaining 5-star reviews, left and right by, just like strangers, not my friends, they were leaving really good reviews. So I had really strong faith that someday, people will recognize, how good products we're making, and then just the impact that this can potentially, make in the market on women's lives. Basically, feminine care products have a lot of impact on women's health and wellness. So just that goal, that vision that we had, really continued to motivate me.
Seems like you were inspired and motivated by the bigger mission of helping women all around the world. That's amazing.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, as you know, as we all know, the feminine care industry is dominated by big, huge companies, and they have been dominating for years and years and years. So what did you do to compete against these big giants?
I know we got this type of questions a lot from even like VC investors, that we met early on, because there's a reason why no small brands ever like dare to challenge those big giants. But again, like I thought this is now time for more diversity. So basically, female consumers, women were asking for more choice, but then just like the industry, how it was shaped, didn't really offer that many options to women. So I felt like it was time, for women to have more choices. And just the overall trend that was happening in the market, like how everybody, not everyone, but, like how a lot of people want to buy organic food, like organic fruit, and then even clean beauty. So people were looking for cleaner solutions on with everything that they do. And then somehow feminine care was sort of like forgotten, so we were just like reminding everyone that even in the feminine care industry, there can be better solutions or cleaner solutions. So because the incumbents were not focused on in this niche market, we started that and then thought this had a really good potential. And at the same time, our distribution strategy was very novel. So when the big companies were focused on working with major retailers, mostly brick and mortar stores, we focused on the digital e-com. And now like everybody uses e-com, but 7 years ago, when we started that, e-com was not the first destination where people go to buy feminine care products per se, but we started with Amazon and e-com in order to kind of target the consumers who were actively looking for organic options, and then we continued to broaden our distribution.
And then you did Rael became the #1 organic pads on Amazon I think in just 6 months.
Yes, yeah.
And then it's now the best-selling pads in overall pads category, which is amazing. How do you think what was the secret behind that success?
Yeah, so 7 years ago, this is when everybody was jumping into D2C, direct-to-consumer business model. And we were somewhat unique in a way that we decided to launch our products on Amazon first, because we thought on Amazon we could get really honest reviews, from those who were looking for organic pads. And then as we analyzed these reviews, we thought we could continue perfecting, our products. And then when we are ready, then we can be ready for the retail expansion. So we used Amazon to really gain a lot of customer reviews, and we analyzed every one of them truly to understand what people were looking for and what we were lacking. And our current product is actually number 7th edition. So that's how many iterations and then upgrades that we've been making, by reading all the reviews, on Amazon. So they gave us a lot of insights about what the consumers were looking for. And then this was the platform that not all our competitors were like looking at when we launched at the same time. So we had the first mover advantage, and then went there, became #1 organic pad within 6 months. And then since like 2000, we have become #1 pad overall in the overall category, which is a big accomplishment. So we're very proud that we had this unique strategy that, made us have a really kind of head start.
And then you did enter into brick and mortar, launching in Target and CVS and Walmart and Walgreens. Tell us about that transition.
Yeah, so Amazon business and T2C business, e-com is usually where startup companies, brand start, and that's what we did. And then after getting, really good reviews on Amazon, we were very confident that we can now finally expand and then reach, reach big consumers. So I remember I had no idea how to get into Target. So I had to bother our investors for some advice, and then they introduced me to some retail experts. So I spoke to some of them, and they all recommended that we needed to get a broker to connect with one of those major retailers. So we got a broker, and then he set up a meeting. But what was good was actually right before I flew out to Minneapolis to meet with the Target buyer. And right before that, they actually saw us on Amazon and they knew how well we were doing on Amazon. So that was a big plus. And then after speaking to the buying team, a couple of times, we were feeling really good about our chance of getting in. And what's interesting is that actually the second meeting we had with the Target buying team, they asked us, Yanghee, everything looks really great, your branding, but the packaging, at that time, our products were all in white packaging. Now we have very colorful packaging, but back then it was all very white. So they suggested like, are you open to changing the packaging, for Target? And we're like, of course, yes, if we can get in. So, we were pretty flexible about that. And also, they gave us really good advice that in order to stand out on the shelf, in big stores, you want to be a little more, colorful than just being very like pure white. So we also changed our perspective and then redid our branding and made the product work better for retail, brick and mortar. So we had to learn a lot because we're very focused on just making our product work on digital platforms. And then as we got into brick and mortar, there were so many more factors that we had to consider. So it was a big learning curve, but we got there and then, we did our branding, changed the packaging to be more effective for retail. So that's where we are now.
Wow, that's amazing. As you're talking about changing the branding and everything, I'm curious now, how did you come up with the name Rael?
Can you guess?
No, actually.
It actually came from Rael.
Oh,
Yeah.
got
So,
it.
being real, we drive real results, real healthy, real organic. And, we just love the word real, like it's for real woman, but then it's not really trademarkable. So we switched ENA and then
Got it.
became Rael. And I think it's good that it doesn't mean anything. The word does not exist. So people just look at it and then is it real? Is it Rael? What is it? It's just like, triggers like a lot of curiosity. I think that works out as a brand.
How did you come up with the vision for the branding and then the packaging and then as a company, as a brand? Because I know that look through your website, like the color palette and everything, I feel like it's there must be a strategy behind it.
Yeah. I mean, when we first worked on our organic cotton covered pads, we needed to convey the idea that it's organic, natural, it's a cleaner solution. So green is our brand color. I wear green a lot. It kind of represents like the natural aspect of our product. So we wanted to use the green, but also make it somewhat more like sophisticated green that, in the old days, if you go to, big stores, feminine care products are all looking very corny in a way. They use
not
like
pretty.
purple, red, like it's like really loud. And what we wanted to do was to make the feminine care packaging, even like beauty packaging, it's pretty, like why does it have to be ugly, So we wanted to put a lot of aesthetics, on it. So I think the color came out really nicely, and then everybody loves our R too. So it's just all working well now.
I love it. I know that Rael, what makes it really unique is its holistic approach to feminine care and wellness. I know you're now expanding beyond just pads and then entering into skincare market. Can you tell us about your new product offerings and the reasons behind this expansion?
Sure. So even though we started with organic cotton cover pads, what we really wanted to do as a brand and a company, my co-founders and I talked about it a lot. We stepped back a little bit and really thought about the vision of the brand and then what we wanted to achieve. And it was obvious that, we started the business really wanting to help women's lifestyle and well-being. And feminine care happened to be the first opportunity where we saw the gap. But then later on, we looked at what women go throughout their hormonal cycle. So I'm sure a lot of women here can relate to this, but we go through a cycle every month. And then it's not only the menstrual cycle, but there are other like 3 weeks when we need to also, take care of our body. So we got into feminine hygiene space, which is called intimate care with more natural solutions for like feminine wipes and feminine wash. And then what I thought about was 2-3 days before I get my period, like hormonal acne would always come out. So I really hated my period when I was younger because it would all just like mess up my skin routine and I would have like breakouts. So there's definitely a connection between period care and like skincare. So we tested our ideas with pimple patches and facial sheet masks. And we had a really interesting story behind our 4 flavors of sheet masks because we tell the story about, okay, week 1, menstrual, phase, your skin is very dry, sensitive, use hydration sheet mask. Week 2, when your estrogen level is going up, use like collagen to help boost the collagen production. And after ovulation, that's when estrogen level starts to go down and then you start losing the glow. So use vitamin C, sheet mask. And then the last week, luteal cycle is the dark period when you start getting all these like sebum, oil production. and then hormonal acne. So we recommend like tea tree oil sheet mask to treat that. So we had this like interesting story about what woman goes through every month and how your skin changes, and then launched our sheet mask. And then we got really good response. They both like really got traction. So we're very confident that we can continue building our portfolio in skincare. So finally, about 2 years ago, we launched the skincare essentials under the Miracle Clear brand, and now we have like cleansers and serum and cream that all help with like the balancing all these like issues that come out because of the hormonal changes. So our skincare is very focused on hormonal skincare. And then, we really want to position ourselves as a holistic cycle care brand, which has solutions for all the problems that women deal with because of the hormonal changes happening inside your bodies.
That's wonderful, because I'm sure many of you have used the facial mask from Korea. I buy many whenever I go see my parents, but I never know like what to use, because there's no like recommendations or tailored approach to like if you have this type of skin or if you are in this type of cycle. So you just kind of end up using whatever, just looking at their name, and then but it's interesting how you've paired what you were selling already and then matching it up with a new product offering. So it's an easy introduction for already existing customers.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're keen on introducing the concept of cycle syncing too. I don't know if you heard about it, but if you listen to your body, then every cycle your body needs different things. So it's not just about feminine care and then skincare products, but even food. You can eat different food for different nutrients, for the cycle, and then different exercises you can do depending on the cycle. So we're educating the consumers about how to listen to your body, how to cater your routine and lifestyle to better understand and then better improve your lifestyle and well-being.
Yeah, and about that, I know that you have a huge following. Your brand has a huge following on TikTok. Rael is, I think, the #1 most followed feminine care brand on TikTok. Yes. Tell us about the marketing strategy behind this.
Yeah, so our number of following has got up to like almost like 400,000 followers, and TikTok has become the primary marketing vehicle for a lot of brands. So we used to focus on Instagram, and then last 2-3 years we've really shifted our focus to TikTok. And then TikTok has been really interesting for us to tell our story in a more effective way. I think videos, compared to static images, really help us to tell the complex story around hormonal cycle and then cycle syncing. So we do a lot of educational content through our TikTok account, but it's not just about like boring educational content. We also do a lot of like humorous content too. Women deal with a lot of interesting experiences, while they go through their periods and then cycles. So we make a lot of content for women to relate to. And then we also work with a lot of influencers, who support us. And, some of them talk about the period care products. Some of them talk about beauty. Some talk about the holistic cycle care to show them how to use our products depending on the cycle. So through all these efforts, we were able to really gain good following. And it's amazing to see the community. They love what we do, and then they support the approach that we have taken, the holistic approach to women's wellness. And we want to continue really creating educational content so that women can really know there are better options they can choose from, and then make the best choice that caters to their bodies.
I would love to know the strategy behind producing content, right? Because everybody, I'm sure, like if you are have a brand, like what do you talk about? Like, how do you talk about it? What are some of the things that goes behind the scene as you create content for TikTok?
I mean, it's pretty incredible because I am not the one producing content, obviously. Our social media team, mostly like 20-something-year-old ladies, and then we also even have like college interns, and they actually do better than me, making content. And some of these young ladies are not afraid of being in front of the camera. So, they act like influencers too and then produce a lot of great content. But there's a strategy behind it. We have a number of content that we want to, put out every day. And then we have the whole calendar, and then we come up with different stories that we want to tell. And then, when influencers talk about us, we also like tag that. So we're trying to really come up with like a balanced approach, because we don't want to make it too serious, either, because it's TikTok. So it's a mix of, serious content, but also some humorous content, and also some like, fun activities that we do, like even like BTS, like behind the scenes, we also show, so that our community understands like the people behind the brand. So it's very real, like raw content, sometimes I feel like growing up, like when I have a brand, I don't know like what kind of people are behind the brand, like how they work together. But I think our TikTok account really shows like all these like hustling activities that's behind it. And also we talk about our products and do a lot of experiments to show how high performing they are as well. So it's been a really effective vehicle for us to tell the story about the brand and our products.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've noticed that now the consumers are shifting in their choice of which brands to support. And I think oftentimes when they love the people behind the brand is when people become really, really loyal. So that's amazing. I know you recently took your TikTok influencers to Korea, right?
Oh,
Tell us
yes.
about that trip.
Yes, so in May, we took 8 influencers, TikTok influencers that we work with, to Korea. And it was actually a novel experience for me too, because my family is in Korea, so I go to Korea every 6 months, So going to Korea for me was nothing, novel, but these 8 influencers that we took, they were wowed by their experience in Korea, because we wanted to give them more like the K-beauty experience. So the reason why we took them to Korea was Rael, although the founders are originally from Korea, we don't really market us as a Korean brand. It's an American brand. The founders happen to be, originally from Korea, and then we leverage the Korean technology to make better products. That's how we use the Korean angle. But we wanted to, work with our influencers to tell our Korean heritage in a more organic way, effective way. So we wanted to show them where the founders are from, and then what inspired us to make better products, and then our manufacturing partners, and then just show, like our vision and mission behind the brand. And then we also show the fun, like K-beauty part, like hair spas, and then, facial, skincare, and even like color analysis. I don't know if any of you has done it, but it's something very unique that Koreans do there. So all these experiences, in addition to like taking them to like Gyeongbokgung, and then we all wore like hanbok, and our influencers like loved it. So it made me really proud, because I grew up in Korea, but I didn't really see that many foreign tourists, when I grew up there. And, Korea was never like a destination for Americans to think of going when they have a vacation.
Right.
But this time when I was in Korea in May, I saw a lot of foreign, tourists actually. And then there were a lot of people at Olive Young shopping,
Yes.
and people love to have that K-beauty experience when they come to Korea. So just, as a brand owner, I was so proud that we did this, and then the influencers learned so much about the brand, and then, Korea, so it was nice that way. But at the same time, just as a Korean person, I was just so proud that, we became like a tourism destination, and then people love spending time in Korea, which was amazing.
That's right. I think growing up, we got, are you Chinese or Japanese? And now you're Korean. Do you know this K-pop star? I'm like, I've never heard of them. Have you seen this Korean drama? So I think that Rael having Korean, founder or originally from Korea is a hugely beneficial, I would imagine. So as a female founder from Korea, were there any challenges or unique opportunities of building your company in the U.S.?
So I think when I was at Disney, I always wanted to be like more American. I'm more Korean than I'm American, I guess, when I was at Disney. But then after I became an entrepreneur, I think my Koreanness actually really helped, because, we're bringing the Korean technology to the US market. We work with a lot of factories based in Korea, so it's a lot easier who speaks the local language to work with them. And then I see a lot of different ideas. We see what's happening in Korea, all the new trends, all the trendy ideas, technologies, ingredients. We see that, but at the same time, we understand what's happening in the U.S. as well. So having those perspectives, like diverse perspectives, as a Korean immigrant entrepreneur, I think is really helpful. So I think at least like while running Rael, I benefited as a Korean immigrant entrepreneur, and I think as we do more skincare business, I think knowing K beauty and having that connection with the K beauty ecosystem in Korea is also going to help us a lot.
And then you ended up entering into the Korean market after the U.S. market. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's what happens when you do startup company, because we never really planned to expand to Korea because, we started here, we started in LA, and then we were a small company. We're still trying to make it in the US. But then after we started our business in the US, there was a big scandal in Korea. I don't know if you remember
that.
Yeah, a few years ago, there was a big scandal about the ingredients of, conventional pads. And, Korea is a little interesting in a way that, people are very emotional or like passionate. So when some news breaks out, everybody knows it, and then people take on action. So when there was a lot of media coverage about, questionable ingredients in the conventional pads, more than 50% of the women in Korea started using organic feminine care options. And then there were not that many organic brands then. So suddenly we were getting love calls from retailers in Korea who wanted to carry our products. And then we saw a lot of Korean people buying our products and then shipping them back to Korea. So we felt responsible for taking care of our own mother country. I mean, Korean consumers are wanting our products. They need organic feminine care options. And while we were, a small company with not many resources, we decided to expand to Korea so that we can also serve our Korean consumers. And also it made sense because we manufacture a lot of our products with a Korean factory. So instead of bringing here and then bring back, we wanted to just serve our Korean consumers from, the manufacturing location. And then it went really well because here in the US, still not everybody is aware of the benefits of using organic, natural feminine care. We still need to do a lot of education in the US, but in Korea, the education was somehow done by all the media, coverage. So we just needed to compete with the other organic brands in Korea, and having that Amazon #1 bestseller, sort of claim helped us a lot to kind of expand in Korea very fast. So we were able to do that very quickly as an early stage startup company.
That's amazing. And I mean, starting with just an idea, how wonderful would it be if this could exist?
I know.
And then to growing it this far. I mean, you have an impressive background and also a very inspiring journey. So what is next for you? And what is next for Rael?
For Rael, so we are about 7 years old, and we're still growing, fast in the US and Korea. So I see that hopefully in the next 5 years, everyone in the US and Korea knows us, so knows us as a holistic cycle care brand. So we're keen on really telling our story as a holistic wellness brand. So we're graduating from being just like a tampon company, pad company. We're trying to take care of women throughout the whole hormonal cycle. So that storytelling is also very important. And then, I believe in the next like 5-7 years, we want to be a lot more global too. So we have a big vision, ambition to become a household brand that serves all the women around the world. So that's our goal, vision, and as the CEO, I guess that's my vision too.
That's amazing. I know that we have a room full of, I think, possibly aspiring entrepreneurs. So for people who are, maybe have that idea and they're kind of thinking about growing their own thing or maybe leaving a corporate job to maybe start their own company or doing a startup, what advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah. In general, I am a very optimistic person, so I encourage people to follow their dreams and listen to their heart and do what you think, you should do. And thinking about my life, when I said that I wanted to do entertainment, when I was in Korea before going to business school, people were like, how hard, how easy it would be to get into like Hollywood. People said that it's probably not going to happen for you, but I was able to make it work. So I think if you believe in it and then give your hard work, it happens. So if anybody has a really great idea and then think that it will happen, I think you should follow your dreams and listen to your heart. But at the same time, one thing that I always tell aspiring entrepreneurs is that it's not going to be easy, even though the idea may be amazing and then will be successful, still the experience, the journey is not going to be easy for anybody. So just be prepared, for that. I think resilience is really important, to be a successful entrepreneur. There will be times when you're down, very depressed, you want to quit, but you have to have that energy, that resilience to still get up and then go to work next day and then try to solve the problem. So I just encourage everyone to do your homework, to make sure that your idea is really solid and then you are ready for, any kind of circumstances and experience that can happen to you. But then if you're prepared for that and then you overcome those challenges, then you can get there eventually and finally. So that would be my advice.
That's amazing. I'm curious to know, as a startup entrepreneur and founder, there's a lot of unexpected challenges that come your way. And as you said, I'm sure there are days when you're like, okay, this is like I don't see how this is going to happen. How do you get back up and still keep going?
I mean, it's hard, but I think my strength is kind of like the mental strength. So even when I was in business school, in my first year, I interviewed a lot with entertainment companies and then got rejected so many times. And finally, I had an offer from Disney and all that. But, just like coming to the US, I think kind of like prepared me to hear no. And then I know I have to do extra work in order to succeed, here, because I pretty much grew up in Korea. So I think even, while doing Rael, when something doesn't work, I'm like, okay, of course it doesn't work, but we'll do more. We'll make it happen. And then the more hard work you put in, then it eventually happens. So I sort of believe in hard work, and then it will eventually happen. It's a matter of time. So having that kind of mindset, I think, helped me kind of like continue pushing. And the conviction that it will happen, for you and for my company, I think also gave me a lot of strength. Mm-hmm.
So having faith in yourself, and so trusting yourself and trusting your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we may have ask one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So if you have any questions, get them ready. I think what I'm most inspired by your journey is that you had a plan. It seems like you were a planner, right? Like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to work in consulting. I'm going to go to the HBS. And you did, and I'm going to work in Disney. So you kind of like planned out your whole career path. And it actually did work out in the exact way. I'm sure there were ups and downs, but it did actually, you made all of them happen. Mm-hmm. And then you're the most pivotal moment when it came for you to start your own company. You embrace that unknown and the opportunity that maybe you didn't plan, right? So and I know there's a lot of people who perhaps listening, maybe I think it's also being live streamed, so maybe online, who are listening. It's kind of like, I thought I had a plan for my life and for my career, but maybe I've achieved it, but it's not what I thought it was going to be, or I'm ready for a new challenge, but maybe they're like kind of lacking that direction. I don't know what's next for me. Mm-hmm. What would you say to those people?
I mean, it seems like I planned everything and things worked out, but there were it was like a bumpy road. So, for example, after MBA, I thought I could just get a job at Disney or Hollywood, but it didn't work out that way. I had an internship at Disney, so I felt really lucky that I had that experience, but it didn't lead to a full-time job. And then in my second year of MBA, I had a visa issue as an international student, so it was not as easy to get a job in Hollywood. So my idea was, okay, so I'm going to take a workaround. So I'll do consulting for another 2 years, in the US, in LA potentially. And then after gaining that consulting experience, then that's going to be a stepping stone for me to get to the next, level. So I did consulting for 2 years after MBA, which was not my preference, but I did that in order to go to Disney. So I would encourage everyone, there is a time when you don't see, the path clearly in front of you, but there's a workaround. There are like other plans that you can do to get there. So it's okay. It doesn't happen right away. But then if you can do something else and use that as a stepping stone to get into the other job that you want, I think you should take that, work around to get there. So I think there are a lot of different ways and different options you can choose from. So I think if you really want to kind of like plan ahead, then be open-minded about the other opportunities. And then for me, when the Rael opportunity came, or like the entrepreneurial opportunity came, I could have easily said that like I'm not interested because I'm
Not in the plan.
I've only done entertainment, and that was the reason why I came to the U.S. or went to business school. And then I had my whole family who didn't like approve the idea because
how was their reaction when you first like, I think I'm going to quit Disney to try this new thing?
I know, because my parents were so like proud that like, I mean, they were sad that I left home, family behind to pursue my dream in the US. But, like the fact that I was working in Hollywood, like Disney, I made them proud. And suddenly I told them that I think I'm going to quit and then I start a pad company. And they were like, what? And then where did that come from, So having to convince them and then also like convincing myself, I think took a while. But I think sometimes you just need to take a risk and then jump into something that is not known. And I think that's what makes your life very interesting and dynamic. And I think by then I felt like I took a rather safe path, like elite course, So I planned everything and then I worked around and then got there and everything. But maybe this is one time that I do something crazy in my life, before I get much older. And it's okay to make a mistake, then I can still come back to the corporate world if something goes wrong. So I think I just told myself that, I'll give like one try to do something crazy, unplanned in my life, and then see how it goes. And I think that's what makes life very interesting and fun.
How's your parents' reaction these days?
They're actually my biggest supporters now. You know how parents are.
Sure.
Like sometimes I do interviews in Korea, and then there's some like big major newspapers who talk about me and then my company, and then they brag about it with their friends. So I think it makes them feel very proud. And then the fact that we actually have business in Korea, I think is helping because they actually see our products everywhere they go. And my mom would like take a photo of our products, when she goes to stores. So I think that also make them very proud. Yeah. So
if you could go back to your younger self, is there anything that you would want to say to maybe your 20-year-old self as she embarks on her career journey?
I'll probably say to my 20s, it's okay. It's going to work out. Like, calm down. Cause,
don't worry too much.
I know. Because I think when I was in my 20s, I loved my 30s, but when I was in my 20s, that's when I was like studying to, come to the US, and, it was like everything was so uncertain. I wanted to go to the US, but I wasn't sure whether I was getting to a good business school. And then when I was in business school, it was so uncertain too whether I'll be able to stay, with a job here. So I think in my 20s, it was a lot of like kind of struggles with like uncertain future. So if I can meet her now, I would say like just like calm down, don't worry, it will work out. It just takes time, but don't worry too much.
Don't worry, because everything will work out.
Yeah.
So kind of trusting yourself and trusting your journey.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this was hopefully it was as inspiring for you as it was for me. Now we can open up the floor for some questions. Anybody want to have a question for Yanghee? Yes.
Kind of exemplifying ups and downs of what might be entrepreneurship. Share maybe. Oh, sorry. I'll start from the beginning. To exemplify the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, it might be really fascinating if you could share maybe one really challenging day in memory and then one like really satisfying day in memory.
Oh, there are quite a few of them. So I would say challenging days. There are a few. In the early days, I would say that as an entrepreneur, something that was very new to me was having to worry about cash situation.
Sure.
Because if you work at a Disney or a big company, like who
Just
cares?
pay you.
Like, you just get the
Get a regular paycheck.
You don't have to think about like how much money you have in the bank. But as we, started our own business, like that was something. And then we're fundraising and the cash balance is going down. We only have a few, weeks of cash left, and we have to get the money quickly from VCs. But then to the investors that you're pitching, you shouldn't show any nervousness. You just have to pretend that like everything's great, you know? So I remember those days, you know, that made us really, really stressed out. So that would be like one of the most challenging days. And I think one of the happiest days was actually the first day that we launched our products at Target, you know, like when we started our business and then we were on Amazon, we could only like dream about our products being at Target. But then it kind of happened, you know, quickly for us in 2019. So I remember like going to the store. I was a crazy person, like taking photos like everywhere in front of the shelf. So I think that really made us satisfied. Yeah.
Amazing. Yes. Yes. What's your name?
Oh, my name is Tees. Nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
So I have one comment, one question. First, the comment is, I believe that you fulfilled your entertainment dream by being a part of the content creation for the TikTok family. So
This is true.
I think you should be proud of yourself for that, because you got to achieve that dream.
Yeah.
And the question would be, based on Rael's current success, are there any initiatives in, for instance, young girls that aren't able to afford feminine products? Are there any initiatives like in schools or so on? Or if not right now, is there a plan for the future to have that implemented?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for asking that question, because we actually do a lot of nonprofit work with different organizations. So we partner with like I Support the Girls, and there's also Happy Period that we partner with. So with those nonprofit organizations, you know, sometimes there's a packing event. So we bring our employees together and then make hygiene kits to donate to homeless women or underprivileged students. And then there's also some education initiative that we're running with the nonprofit organization. So we continue to do that. We don't really use it for like marketing purposes, but we want to give back to the community. So we continue to donate and make sure that we're part of like the movement, you know, to fight period poverty. One thing interesting that we did recently was actually to be part of the tampon tax refund coalition. I don't know if any of you heard of that, but last October, 8 brands in the feminine care startup space actually got together as a coalition. And then we wanted to really make it aware that 21 states in the US are still charging taxes on tampons.
I was so shocked by that.
Yeah, because essential items are supposed to be tax-free in the,
Right.
globally. And then Korea does not charge taxes on pads and tampons, but US is somehow backward in a way. And then they consider feminine care products a luxury and then
Wow.
charging taxes. So we wanted to do something to make people aware of this issue and then basically put pressure on the lawmakers, to remove, taxes on period care. So basically, we wanted to make sure that everyone in the country, including the lawmakers and men, understand that period care is essential items. It should not be luxury. Everybody should have access to it. So we put a lot of like PR effort around it, and then people know about it more now. So it's another initiative that we're doing to make a difference in the world.
I thought it was interesting how some other products that I feel like are not as essential are tax-free. Can you talk about, because then that really...
I mean, there's a
huge
perception
contrast.
that men products actually get more benefit. So even like Viagra, some of those products are tax-free.
Hair loss items.
Hair loss items, but then I think there's a perception that what women use tend to be not essential, So we're trying to make a point that, these are essential items for women's health, and then people need better access to those. And, if we remove the tax, it's more affordable and accessible. So that's another big initiative, for the company and also for the industry.
Thank you. Yes. What's your name? Yeah.
My name is Su Zhang. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you very much for sharing your exciting journey. You talk about the rapid development in both US and Korea, your homeland market. Can you talk about some other markets, for example, European market or other South, like Asian or other parts of the world?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're not as active in countries outside of the US and Korea yet, but we have business in Canada and EU, Europe through our Amazon business. So we never launched an office, or we're not like doing any marketing there, but we have the Amazon business actually, which is growing very well. And then our Korea office is always looking for opportunity to expand in Asia. So we're looking at the Japanese market and Southeast Asia market. So it's happening, but we feel the need to establish ourselves here, more before we go out. So we're still in the process, but we're always like doing our study to find the priority markets outside of the country. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I am a bit curious about your co-founder. Her background is quite different from that of yours. You have worked in a multinational as an executive, did consulting work, went to HBS, so quite qualified and prepared for your startup work. But for a writer and a journalist as a co-founder, how has her role in the company evolved over the years, and is there a reason why you have decided to include her in your operation as opposed to just a idea provider at the early stage?
Yeah. So we actually have, I actually have two co-founders, and one is a former writer, the journalist who reached out to me after reading about me through the newspaper. And my other co-founder is a formal graphic designer. So they both come from a creative background, and I'm the one who had the operation, like business background. But in the startup world, actually, a lot of people have unconventional backgrounds. So, when I was at Disney consulting, like, we all tend to have similar backgrounds, but in the startup world, when you meet other founders, they come from very, very diverse background, and not everybody really grew up in the kind of like the big corporations. So as long as you have an idea, I think you can be an entrepreneur. And then in case of my co-founders, they had really good insights into what's happening in women's life and in the women's industries, and having really good insight about like what's happening on Amazon, because my co-founder was a mom, so she had better insights about like what moms go through, because that's when you become a lot more interested in the organic natural products after you become a mom. So all of us really brought a lot of like ideas to the table. I mean, it is true that as the company scales, you need an operator, and then I bring my management background to be the CEO, and then she may bring more like ideas to the table. But I don't think that any kind of like background should be sort of like excluded to become a good entrepreneur or even like a CEO. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing your amazing story. So kind of relate to the questions. So as a startup and entrepreneurs, it's a challenge every day how to attract new talent to your organization.
So initially, when we were small, early, it was not as easy to bring a lot of good talent to the company. So, I had to actually do a lot of search myself, like on LinkedIn, like reaching out to people that looked, interesting, and then convince them a lot. But I think we were lucky in a way that we met a lot of candidates or talent who were really interested in our mission. So the talent, the candidates that I spoke to didn't really see us as a pad company or like a tampon company. They saw us as a company who wants to really change, the world with better products, for women's health. So we actually interviewed a lot of people who had really good backgrounds in beauty, in big corporations, but they wanted to do something really meaningful in their life. And then our mission really spoke to them. So initially, we really attracted those talent who believed in the mission, who were sort of like, tired of working for a big company and then doing, working for a company who didn't have a really big mission. So that happened. And now, we're a little bigger, and then we have a bigger organization. So I think we have a really good culture, to bring really good talent. I mean, obviously, the company is very female dominated. So think 90% of our team are women, so we haven't succeeded in attracting many men. That has not been our priority until now. So it's all very passionate women who believe in our mission, who we're attracting, and then the kind of culture, the kind of products that we built are really effective in attracting talent.
Hi, I'm Sanyoung. Thank you for being here today. I think a lot of the startup companies focus more on the technology, considering the speed to market and the costs that are required upfront. And given it's it required manufacturing, the speed to market and the cost upfront, was there a specific funding strategy that you went about to ensure that you could expedite it as much as possible? How did you go about that?
So you're just asking about the funding, VC funding strategy. There were a few things. For us, the first thing that we needed to do was actually to educate the potential investors about the feminine care industry, because obviously VC world is very dominated by men. Mm-hmm. So when we first brought the feminine care idea to them, they had just no idea, what they were dealing with. And we got a lot of basic questions about how many pads do people need, per cycle, all these different sizes, what do they mean, things like that. So I think initially it was about the, educating the potential investors about the market. But what they were really kind of wowed by was the fact that it's actually big industry. So feminine care industry market size is huge. And then if you think about it, half of the population of the world are women. And then they menstruate for about 40 years of their lives. And every month, they have to buy a product for a certain amount of money. So if you combine them all together, it's a humongous industry that has not been really disrupted by small brands. So when they heard about it, they understood the market size, the addressable market, and then just the fact that, there were not that many small brands who went into it. There's a big potential for a small brand, emerging brand like us to break into the market. But of course, because it's been dominated by big brands, they wouldn't believe. It was challenging to make them believe that we are going to be the one, disrupting the big brands. So we had to convince them to believe in that. But like I said, we were lucky that we launched our products on Amazon first, and then we gained 5-star reviews very quickly. So when we went pitching to VCs, we actually pointed them to go to Amazon, read all the reviews. It's public information. And then our male VC investors actually went to Amazon, read the reviews, and they were very impressed by what people were saying about, the quality and the performance of the product. So I think that worked out, that we started on Amazon and had these public reviews that were available for VCs. And the fact that we were women who knew about this, and although we didn't come from the CPG world, the writer can bring the storytelling capabilities, the designer can bring the branding capabilities, and I bring the operation capabilities. So the combination of us three also, I think, was very attractive to VC investors. So I think the founder story, the product itself, and the initial traction that we had on Amazon really helped us, get traction with the VC investors early on.
One more question. Okay.
Thank you. I'm Jihye. What would you do differently now with what you know from your experience as a startup?
Oh, that's a good question. So looking back, I think I would have hired a bit more senior people early on, because now that we actually brought more senior experienced people, I'm just learning a lot from them. And then, initially when we did not have that many resources, we had a very junior team, and then, we didn't have as many people who knew CPG that much. So looking back, I think bringing on somewhat more experienced, senior people early on would have helped me a lot, because I think I struggled a lot at the beginning, having to do everything on my own, learning everything from scratch. So I think I would have gotten more help, at the beginning. But then there's also a benefit of just, kind of hustling and then just hitting the ground running. And I learned it hard way, but I think it kind of worked out. So I think that's something that I would do differently. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, thanks, everyone. Does anybody have a last burning question? Or are we all ready for the reception? Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring journey with us. Yeah.
Well, thanks, everyone.